to yet another session of Talking Films online. Today we are discussing the film Papilio Buddha, and I'm extremely happy to welcome the director of the film, Jayan K, Cherian, who has very kindly consented to be a part of this discussion, and Brinda Bose, who teaches English literature at the Center for English Studies at Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, will introduce the film and moderate the discussion for this session. Brinda has studied at Presidency College, Calcutta, Oxford, and Boston universities. Her areas of research interest are gender, sexuality, film studies, and modernisms. Brinda has a long list of impressive publications, but I'm sorry I will not be able to read out all of them due to lack of time. I'll just say that she has published several critical editions, and her book, The Audacity of Pleasure, Sexualities, Literature, and Cinema in India, is an important contribution in the field. Her debut chapbook, Calcutta, Crow, and Other Fragments, was published in July this year. Welcome to you, Brinda. Jayan K. Cherian is a poet and filmmaker. He graduated with honors from Hunter College and then went on to study film and creative writing at the City College of New York. Papilio Buddha is his debut feature film that was screened in the Panorama section of the 64th Berlin International Film Festival. It also received the Special Jury Award at the Kerala State Film Awards in 2012. He has made several documentaries and short films. His documentary, Shape of the Shapeless, won the Silver Jury Prize at the San Francisco Short Film Festival in 2010. We welcome Jayan. So Brinda, I now hand over to you. We are looking forward to this session with both of you here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Geeta and Nikhila, for starting this series. I'm really sorry, and it's been my loss that I haven't been able to join any of the prior meetings. But maybe in the coming weeks, once we're done with some of the work that we're still having to do for the last semester at the university, I'll be able to do that. But thank you so much for asking me to suggest a film, and it was fabulous that Jan could join us. This is a very, very favorite film of mine. It's in fact I've written about it in my introduction to the book, The Audacity of Pleasure. So if there's time at the end, I might read a little bit of from what I had written there. But now I'll just flag a few points maybe for discussion, and then we will move on to Jan, and then questions and discussion as the format that Geeta told me. So I had actually had, I've watched this film quite a few times now, and the last time yesterday, again, after a longish break. And it always surprises me that how much it throws up every time I go back to the film. And I remember the first time that I had watched it, I think it was still banned at that point. And it had been brought to us by a rather intrepid Malayali college teacher friend at DU, and he organized a small screening in a small room in a college, and some of us gathered there. And when I watched the Vimeo version much later, then I realized how much we'd actually missed. It was a really bad, I think probably a pirated kind of copy that we had watched the first time. But I remember how absolutely moved and disturbed and energized we had been by that screening, and we had had a long discussion after that in that first little screening that I'd attended. And I mean, of course, despite all the cursing of the pandemic, it is something like this that makes it possible for us to perhaps connect with Jayan in New York and the rest of us. So just a few pleasures out of that in some way, thanks to Geeta and Nikhila. So I won't say a great deal about the kind of technical details of the film. They're all available if you've and I'm assuming that all of us have watched the film, and one can always look up the details of it, who acted and who did the various aspects of it. But of course, this is a film that was written and directed by Jayan, and as Geeta said, it was his first feature film made in 2013. And it's set in, as we've seen, in a very lush area of, nestled in the Western Ghats area of Kerala, shot in the Wayanad district. And there are a few things that I thought that I could flag, and we would come back, and there'd be other questions and discussions that can take off, and each of you might have specific things that you want to raise and talk about, and also to ask Jayan, since he is here and he'd be a far better person to address those questions. But I thought we'd start by thinking about the title of the film, which is Papilio Buddha. And we know, I think, that it is the name of a rare species of butterfly, the Papilio Buddha. And of course, ironically, it has Buddha in it, which becomes important to the film as it moves along. So the film opens with this very lush landscape that we have of this region, which is rainy and lush green and all of that. And the first, I think, scenes bring us these two young men, Shankaran and his friend, gay lover, young man called Jack, who is lepidopterist, the one who studies butterflies and rare butterflies, and they're searching for a butterfly out in the greens, and the one that they're looking for is the Papilio Buddha. So right up front, apparently the film is anchored with its title symbol, if we like, the rare species of butterfly Papilio Buddha. But of course, the film is not really about two young men looking for a rare species of butterfly. So what then is it that the title is supposed to be doing? That's something that I was thinking, that we've thought about a bit. I remember in one of those early conversations, Jayan had said very laconically, when he was asked about the title, oh, it's the name of a rare species of butterfly, and didn't say anything much more than that. But of course, the film is only peripherally to do. I mean, there is a thread of the film that keeps coming up once in a while until Jack is made to leave, where these two young men are out searching for butterflies. But it seems that this so-called apparently poaching of a rare species of natural beauty in this case is only a kind of symbol. And what is it a symbol for? That's what I was trying to think about. I mean, perhaps on the one hand, of course, the butterfly, the Papilio Buddha, is a marker not just of the preciousness of the environment and its beauty in these regions, and how all of it is threatened in a lot of ways. But also in this case, because it is a search for something that is rare, much hangs on the elusiveness of this rare species of butterfly. So there's something that one is looking for. One's not looking for any butterfly. One is looking for a precious, rare commodity within that species. One that you can find only after a lot of aspiration. It cannot come to everyone equally and easily. And it is almost as if that one is making a claim on the environment, the earth around one, which is an aspiration. And I think that somewhere it represents, therefore, the aspiration, a kind of ever-soaring dream for freedom and for beauty, which the Dalit community, which we realize very quickly is really the focus of the film, it becomes representative to me in some sense of this aspiration for a life, a beauty, a love, of freedom, which is both ephemeral as well as endangered. So it brings together that, and it stays there like a talisman in some sense at the back of the film, and it keeps coming back when these two young men go out often, even through the various other troubles that the film begins to throw up. So on the one hand, I mean, at some basic level, there is this, of course, the most obvious kind of thing that we can take away from it, which is a white man, his desire to capture treasure of the Orient. He's come there, which is something that the police tell him later that, what are you doing? You've come here and you're taking away, we can jail you just for that. And his relationship with Shankaran, who is a local young man. That is the framing of the film, but the frame actually throws up something at the center of it, which is, which throbs as stories of disenfranchisement, of crisis, and of struggle. So the contrast with the lushness, the beauty, the absolute perfection that the Papilio Buddha represents is starkly contrasted with the kind of struggles of these people, this community that is deprived, that is not allowed to make a claim on the land that they live on because of caste discrimination. And along with it, we see, of course, a great deal of violence. Jayan does not shy away from holding that up to us. And this is something that I'll go on to talk about, that how is it possible for a film to be so political when it is so aesthetic? It is beautiful in every frame that it captures, even something as stark as a rape scene is done aesthetically, if that is possible, without taking away the horror of it and the rage of it, and the real terror when the autos come in and begin to surround Manjushri as she's caught in this in that situation. So what we're getting is, as I said, that the butterfly kind of is stuck up there, almost as if it's pinned, like maybe a lepidopterist would pin a butterfly to study as a kind of talisman. And then we have, eventually this foreigner, Jack, who is expelled, he leaves without much ado. I mean, he feels a little bad for having to abandon Shankaran, but there's nothing really that he can do. But eventually he is a harmless white intruder, finally, while the real danger lies within. that becomes the center of the film and the danger and the violence lies in caste, gender, police brutality, in all kinds of sexual violence, in the disappointment. Also, with communism, so there is a politics that is throbbing through the film that the young man Shankaran's father, Cherian, feels. So Marx has not provided the answers, it seems, even in Kerala, which is the as we all know, is the talismanic kind of communist state. And now it seems to this very enraged and deprived community that perhaps Ambedkar and Buddha will provide the answers that Marx has failed to do, so has Hinduism and Gandhi failed to provide as well. So the title then, Aspirations to Freedom and Beauty, as well as elusiveness and eventually what happens is that the rain and the earth that make and break these indigenous people, the rare butterflies, fate is too far removed from their everyday reality, and it can only be enchanting to a foreign visitor, and yet it is something that draws the outsider to this region. The second area that I wanted to flag is the question of the material richness of the film, the materiality of the film, which seems to be, to me, to be everything tactile and textured and about bodies, human bodies, nature's bodies, especially water bodies, I think, the rain, the river, and the body of the earth at large, which has been denied to its human people, certain groups of human people. So the sensuousness of the film, not merely to do with sexuality, even though, of course, there is an exploration of both homosexuality, heterosexuality, sexual violence in the rape of Manjushri, etc. But the camera, I mean, to me, what is most fascinating in this film is that the camera works itself like a lover, even when it films scenes of violence. A lover not just of the beauty of the landscape, but of its loves and hates and desires and deprivations. So by engaging so intimately with its narrative, what the film and its camera manages to do is make its art sharply and passionately political. So at all times of the film, one is bombarded in all one's senses, by sound, light, emotions, nature, and intense human interactions. So even as this community, we are constantly feeling how unhappy they are and how deprived they are, and yet there's a lust for life. I mean, there's a lust for life in every sphere. There is no giving up. There is a constant raging and a constant loving. I mean, they sort of work side by side. So. And the rough heave and weave of the film is relentless. Especially what struck me right through the film was the use of darkness, of evening and of nightscapes, low lights inside homes that are always throwing faces into relief, all add to the materiality of the film, because it is, we never escape the fact that it is to do with life and life forms that are throbbing, whether they are human or they're of the earth, or really of the texture of the film itself. So that in itself takes on, almost seems to be a signal or a symbol for the materiality of the story. The third thing that I wanted to think about is of course the history of the release of the film, which was so much to do with censorship. And that is particularly ironic. I think there's an irony about a film that talks of the denigration and the silencing of a group and a community of people that is in itself banned, which adds in some sense to, again, to the texture and the materiality of the film. Though, of course, I mean, I'm not saying this is not to romanticize censorship, because it was, I know it was not fun for Jayan at that time, and it is never fun for anybody who is trying to put work out there and it is being censored and put down. But it is something that we face all around constantly. So there are questions of censorship outside of the film, about the film, which are also reflected, as it happened, ironically, within the film. The film got, I think the history of its censorship is actually quite well known. The film got 30 objections, I believe, from the CBFC, which is the Central Board of Film Certification. And they were to do with, I mean, the stringent objections were to do with the denigration of Gandhi, Ambedkar's speech, one speech of Ambedkar's, which seemed to be, critical, which was critical of Gandhi's Satyagraha. Then sexual and caste violence, the showing of it, language also, vile language, etc. So there was, I know, a fairly protracted kind of fight, negotiation, etc. that went on. It was banned from the IIFK, which was the International Film Festival in India, and I mean, it was not shown. And then eventually, Jayan and the team agreed to I think make cut out Ambedkar's speech and also do a bit of blurring of some very violent scenes that the board had objected against. And then it went, meanwhile, it had already gone to many film festivals, and there's a whole litany of prizes and awards and mentions that the film got. And I think when it was screened in Kerala, I read a report somewhere that viewers who belong to the Dalit community who went to watch it said that the film didn't even represent 1/100th of the daily violence that the community was actually facing. And so this man who had spoken to the journalist was very dismissive and said, and even that had to get censored. So this is the reality of how we are silenced. So that is something that stays as a kind of, again, a material history of the film, even though it is now, of course, available, and Jayan has made it available on to watch in full on YouTube and Vimeo and all of that. So I'd like to, I don't know how much time I've already taken up, but I just liked another point that I'll make and maybe stop after that to pass it on to Jayan and then open up the discussion, is I wanted to flag and highlight what I felt was the most powerful part of, most powerful effect of the film, which was the way I started by saying this, the interweaving of the political and the aesthetic that Jayan manages to put across in every frame of the film. It is such a beautifully shot film, but it is also so vibrantly and courageously political in putting out so many issues. So, so that tells us that there is no need, we tend to think that something that is aesthetic cannot be beautiful, and something that, will convey a strong political message cannot be beautiful and aesthetic. But clearly this film belies that, because one can bring the two together, because this film succeeds in suturing these two halves of art and politics in its visual narrative. So the film makes an intervention through a particularly powerful aesthetic exploration of the Dalit dilemma of pride and unbelonging. This is something that struck me, and I think it speaks to almost all of us, wherever we come from, whatever our sort of multiple identities are, that somewhere we are always feeling that we don't belong. So it is something that speaks to a core of us, that how can we make ourselves belong? How can we sort of occupy identities that are constantly sort of eluding us in some way or the other? The film is never squeamish about the abomination of the hatred and the rage and the ravages that the Dalit community has faced and continues to face, as we know. And even as it can universalize, as I said, that it can speak to each of us in various modes of unbelonging that we constantly feel. It is also historically very, very specific, and we need to recognize both, I think, to be able to understand the power of the poem, of the film. But that's a Freudian slip. It is a film that is really like a poem to me. And what it manages to do is that it manages to proclaim the rage for what it is, for what it is. And this is something that the censor board, I think, quite correctly picked up. So what they were afraid of is what they wanted to censor, which is always the case. They don't want to censor things that don't, manage to convey a message powerfully. Here is one film that they understood, I think quite sharply, that was going to destabilize its audience, and that is what they did not want. But eventually, what it is also not coy about is that there is no contradiction in the fact that even while the community that is deprived and that is enraged and that is feeling demeaned is also a community that lives and breathes in its everyday. It's represented in Manjushri, it's represented in Shankaran, even in his father, in so many different ways, that there is an overreaching desire to live and love and eat and work with pride and hope. So how does one bring these two contradictions together? That there is the sense of futility, of feeling that I'm being demeaned all the time, and yet there is the courage and the strength and the hope to want more, to not be to not go into a corner and say, okay, this is my lot and I have to bear it. That is not there at any point of time. And that is really the reason why I think there is a debunking of a certain kind of politics, of Hindu politics, that is, that does not face upfront the problems of caste. In this case, you can say, you can chant all kinds of hymns and walk through and be very saintly, but you are not taking on what are the real felt problems of the community that you are walking through. So that, and then the eventual looking towards the Buddha and Ambedkar's teachings, which then becomes, I think, this is not to say that, I don't think the film is saying that, okay, now one turns away from Hinduism and from Gandhi's Satyagraha politics, and here is, now the solution. I don't think the film offers a solution at the end, but it offers us the possibility of looking elsewhere for hope and in pride in oneself. I think that is both the political and the aesthetic message of the film that I took away most strongly. And maybe now we can open it up where Jayan takes up and talks a little bit about the making of the film. Geeta?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brinda. That was, I mean, you've opened up several possibilities for discussion, which we will take up after we hear from Jayan something about, what exactly made him make a film of this kind and what went into the making of this film. And Jayan, before you begin, just a general instruction to everyone. Zoom will just go off automatically at the end of 40 minutes. So please log back through the same link that we have provided for you. And it may go off abruptly, Jayan, I'm sorry for that, but when you come back, you can carry on. Yeah?
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, Jayan, carry on.
Thank you, Geeta. Thank you, Brinda, Nikhila, and everyone discussing the film. I'm very happy to know that still Papilio Buddha is being discussed. For me, that the reason I made the film, actually it was that time there was a pressing issue in Kerala. And also a little bit the why I come to make this film is my films. I through my works, even poetry, I explore about identities being created and being performed, being used in various levels, or gender or caste or race. Matter, all kind of identities. That's a generic theme in my films. So I started writing this film 2008. There was a reason for that. At that time in Kerala, there was a militant group Buddhist militant Buddhist groups emerged in Kerala politics called DHRM. That is Dalit Human Rights Movement. It is in South and Central Kerala. It is also stems from the land struggles, several land struggles being taken up at that time. One is in Changara, and later it's moved to Aripa, and one is in Wayanad, especially in Mepadi. These land struggles are pretty much done by the Dalit leaders, Dalit organizers. They are going, like hundreds of thousands of families go there and squat the corporate lands, which is colonial corporations having a lot of lands in Kerala, still do, like Harris and Malayalam, Tata, and this kind of huge plantations, there's a colonial plantations having a huge chunk of government land. And there was a movement, and still it is going on, in this Aripa movement is still going on. And I actually, one of the prominent one was in Changara, under the leadership of Laha Gopalan. And the first indigenous voice came to picture in Kerala in '92. It is from Wayanad. It was under the leadership of Geethanandan and C.K. Janu. They're the tribal leaders. And at that time, that movement was crushed by government. And a couple of people died in that. That land struggle was happened exact where we shot Papilio Buddha. And the nature of that struggle is Dalit families going squatting in the government land, not government land, corporate land, or quasi-government land and refused to go. And the squatting movement, the Changara squatting movement have an offshoot. From that offshoot, the DHRM come into picture. But the peculiarity of the DHRMs, they are using a dress code, like jeans and black shirts, and you see in the pictures. They are starting to learn, they're starting to denounce Hinduism and taking Buddhism. At night classes in their colonies, they start to teach Pali, the Buddhist, ancient Buddhist language, and also they are starting some kind of homeschooling program. And you know that in Kerala there is about 25,000 Dalit colonies, which is really segregated colonies. From that colony, traditionally political parties, Marxist or Congress or any other political party uses us for their muscle power. And they're using either parties, the right-wing parties or left-wing parties, either parties are using them as their muscle power. And actually, this Dalit human rights group was emerged from that particular movement, and they are actually that movement can't endorsed by, can even tolerated by any political party, because they're speaking a different language. They go to the colonies and starting de-addiction centers. They're teaching people. Actually, that is something similar to Black Panther Party started in America, like the lunch program, school lunch program in the colonies, something similar like that. So the traditional political parties and the government stamped this group as a terrorist group at that time. Now DHRM is a mainstream political party. They're having candidates there. But at that time, and they banned them. There is an unprecedented manhunt was happening at that time. And one person died in Varkala. His name is Shiva Prasad, killed by some anonymous groups. And that murder was accused of this DHRM volunteers, and the government started to hunt these people. And they started some kind of unprecedented torture programs against these people, especially young boys. In one of the police stations in Kerala called Kadinakulam, at that time, which was called Gondanamo Bay of Kerala. They did the waterboarding, and they hang people from the ceiling, and boys get wear the condoms filled with the chili essence, and that kind of torturing, which is it is the people who is giving me the testimonies of this event, and it's so heart-wrenching. You know, I went to this colony at the time, Varkala, Todua colony, and start to interview these people. And I did about 6 months of this interview. Through these interviews, their testimonies, I tried to make a film. Then I don't want to just make a film like that. At the same time, I want to communicate this to the vast audience. And also, there is, I fictionalize it. And that was actually the primary, that is the immediacy of making this film, that I want to make film. Then I start to write, and then I gather my friends and try to make this film happen. That was inspiration, immediate inspiration of the film. But that is about how I end up thinking of this film. And it is finished by writing well, 2011, 2011, and we shot in end of 2011 and 2012. And then all this, when we started to show the film first time, and also we face a huge challenge in casting. So try to cast real people, and especially in this region. And also I just wanted to say that the three towering figures who is part of this film. One is a founder of DHRM. His name is Tatu. He passed away few years ago. And also this DHRM, Tatu was underground when I shoot this film. He's not appearing in the film. And also the activist Kallan Pukudan, who is acted in the film, he's also passed away. He's also a legendary figure in Kerala, environmentalist, and he come with a totally different, he was not connected with the DHRM, but he was part of this land struggles, and also the environmental movement, and also a early communist person who is coming from the Dalit community and who has a problem with the communism, and he denounced and he get out of the Communist Party just because of he feel like he faced caste discrimination within the party. And his memoir and his biographies are available even in English. Penguin also published his works, and he acted in the film, and he acted himself in the film. I mean, a character is very close to his life, and he passed away. And also the cinematographer of the film, cinematographer is M.J. Radhakrishnan. He's also passed just last year. So it is kind of sad when I think about this film and the shooting time and all this beyond the artistic camaraderie, we are all like a family. And their departure also really deeply saddening us right now. So the better I can talk about this film later. When you're asking questions, I can explain a lot of things to say about the travel of the film later.
Yeah.
Thank you, Geeta and Brinda and all.
Okay.
So
Thank you, Jayan. Yeah, thank you, Jayan, very much for that. Okay, it's now open for discussion and questions. Anyone would like to begin? Yes. Yeah, okay, Chandrasekhar, I think, has unmuted his mic. Go ahead, Chandrasekhar. No, he's
Connecting, looks like.
Oh yeah, he's connecting. Okay, Nikhila, would you like to say something?
Oh, okay. I thought I'll come in a little late. Pandiraj sir and others have unmuted, so.
Oh, okay. Then I think Layali has also.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Layali, can you? Yeah, please go ahead, Layali.
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
I'd like to say my opinion in brief. As this film is addressing a very sensitive issue, which is violence, which is practicing against these marginalized people, and also all types of violence based on caste or orientations. We can see verbal violence and action, or also violence in terms of verbal and violence in terms of action. There is there and deep presentation of the idea or of this issue. I find this presentation of such issue is very deep and there also and full of details. We can see those details are clearly reflected through scripts, through songs, rhymes, which were performing by Dalit group. And also I want to mention for another kind of violence, which was practicing against those groups, which is ridiculous or trying to make fun uh, from others' suffering. Those people who came to shoot the film, they did not show or exhibit any interest on this detail, on this Dalit suffering. They are very interested in shooting the film. Also, I want to refer back, or sorry, to mention one thing, which is the homosexuality. I see this issue, the homosexuality, which was initiated in this film, was contextualizing differently. If we commit ourselves to rehearse Professor Raj Ro's discussion tackling this issue on online discussion on Aligarh film, we can see that the issue of homosexuality in this film was contextualizing and initiated very completely different. It is contextualizing as victimizing this group by others. The strangers try to make use and easily deceives those people. That's all.
Layali. Jayan or Brinda, would either of you like to respond, or shall we move to
Yeah,
someone else?
I can just clarify something about
Yes, yes.
the portrayal of homosexuality in the film. And actually, that film as a window of that the NGO liberal middle class community, and she rightly mentioned about the filmmakers who is trying to document the life. And actually that is kind of that film, sequences in the film is really a critique of the film itself, the authenticity and about the authorship authenticity argument. And the film is kind of, I am not coming from a Dalit community. Being an author of the film, it is not presenting us as an authentic Dalit voice or anything. That there is no claim on it. Even that girl is in the film one of the middle class girl coming from a university background who is doing her research work and her documentary on the land struggle. And she's saying, and her mentor is the NGO figure telling her, your job is to finish your work, film. You just empathize them. That is kind of a middle class kind of goal when they're observing these land struggles or their ethnographic gaze on these people. And it was happened. I've been seeing a lot of NGOs in India who is involving and he's helping. That is all. I have best friends who is working in NGOs and helping and doing amazing job. But there is also another side of it. And that window, they are not all unsincere people or anything. They're very sincere people working hard too. And that window of the film is opening. I'm going to that people's life later in my other film, Cupboard Escapes. In the Cupboard Escapes, this character is coming in place. And where this middle class liberal family, people from the middle class liberal families, and they're coming out and they have a different kind of struggle altogether. But actually, that scene itself, you can say about this film, making of Papilio Buddha itself. And I'm just planting a mine against myself in the film, and not myself, my narrative, actually my versions of this film. Actually, I want to make this narration unreliable in the perspective of authenticity. And the homosexuality issue that the homosexual in Kerala, it is kind of, we people are having sexuality. We never divide it as a homosexual, heterosexual, bisexual, or anything. It is just having sex. And there is several Westerners coming in Kerala and taking boys from Kovalam or other part of the sex tourism is flourishing always there. They don't have to be the sex providers don't have to be identified as homosexual to provide a boy to provide sex to a man, and that is happening all around. But in this context, actually, this is also part of our life. We are practicing all kinds of sexuality, which is not taking a stand at all in that film. But the other window, my extended film, Cupboard Escapes, detail actually going deep into that characters and dealing with sexuality. And I don't know exactly what is the question. I couldn't get what is Layala's real the question.
Yeah, I can recommend.
Yeah.
I mean, in this film,
Mm-hmm.
we can see a different contextualizing of homosexuality. We cannot assume that the treatment of homosexuality in this film is similar as the treatment of this issue in another films. We have had a discussion with Professor Raj Rose tackling this issue on discussing Aligarh film. And the situation was completely different here, and we can see also different treatment here. I think I cannot assume that I'm sure about this, but it is a kind of using poor people. And see, I'm not here to express my attitude towards homosexuality, but this is a notice, very recognizable, different. I can take from making comparison between these two films. Also, I want to add that in terms of narration, or I like the storyline of the film. It is almost classical. It is followed classical narration. It starts with the introductory presentation, then increases because we can see that the events and situations becomes worse and worse, bad. Even as an audience or spectators, in some scenes or regarding some scenes, I can't even stand to watch. This kind, for example, raping woman in that cruelty, very egregious situation. Really, I used to expertise many films through this series of discussion, but I have different feelings and attitudes when I saw this film. Even I has hesitated to share my point because I feel sad more than interest in discussing as the kind of suffering and violence really this is I'm really sorry about this. Thank you.
Oh, it is wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I want to finish about the storyline. It started with the introductory presentation, thesis, and finally they trying to find a solution by applying protest through real life. They start by planning, then they have their protest real and practical. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Layali. I think Faniraj would like to say something.
No, ma'am, I have a request. Mr. Pradeep Kumar, who is friend of Jayan and who introduced Jayan to me. Hi, Jayan. Me and Pradeep are here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And I wish that you grant some time to Pradeep to introduce, because Pradeep promoted this film very enthusiastically in Karnataka, and we have showed it to many circles in Karnataka and discussed about this film in many layers. So I want, if you can ask Pradeep to speak something about this, I'll be grateful.
Yeah, sure. Pradeep, would you like to go ahead, please?
Pradeep, please can you unmute and yeah.
Yeah,
Namaste Jayan and namaste to everybody.
thank you.
Yeah, I request you people to, spare me for my English. Yeah, I came to know about Jayan through his film, in 2012 actually. One of my friend, Kerala friend, he's into activism. He told me and about Papilio Buddha. Later, I searched a lot, googled a lot for the copy. I did not found. Later, I found Jayan Cherian contacts through Facebook, and I have had conversation with him, and he was actually I expressed my thoughts on the film, and I also expressed that I am very eager to watch the film. Then he sent the link and. I have watched it, and later also I have read some of the criticism and some of the pieces on Papilio Buddha in various forums and newspapers and all. Thought that it was one of the important narrative, especially very important alternative narrative, and also thought that the film is uh, very important, especially in the discourse of Dalit identities and representation politics. So later, in Karnataka, we have some very small film activism movement, film appreciation movement. One among them is Manoja Matasiniana, in which Faniraj also involved and me also. In one appreciation which happened in Mangalore, I introduced Papilio Buddha, and the whole audience was mesmerized because we Indians never break, and we never iconoclast the set idioms or set narratives. I think for the first time after watching Papilio Buddha, I simply felt that the daring of Jayan it was very unique because it is not possible for for a normal Indian. It needs a special kind of courage and special kind of upbringing and special kind of reading and reaction to the contemporary. The appreciation which happened, the screening which happened in the appreciation got went well, and we got lot of comments appreciation on Papilio Buddha, and after that I think in nearly 15 to 20 forums across Karnataka, Papilio Buddha, especially among some progressive Dalit groups and film society movements, it was screened. Myself and even Fani and some of my friends also intervened in arranging or organizing the screening of Papilio Buddha. Um, so this is the story of my connection or engagement with Papilio Buddha, and later we became very friends, and I have visited. I was deeply touched by the visual representation, and especially visual representation in one hand, and especially the so-called aesthetics, and and its synchronization with the political representation. As Brinda Bose said, I totally agree with her that the combination of two things sometimes hurt the aesthetics or sometimes hurts the political aspirations. I think Papilio Buddha for me it's very important because it manages, it synchronizes two things in a beautiful manner. I think post independent in India, especially in Indian cinema, especially which focused or raised or addressed Dalit issues and Dalit identity. I think Jayan model is Papilio model is one of the very important model apart from Gurvinder Singh's Anegoredadan or Manjulesh Fandri or Paranjit's or Vetrimaran or some other people who are making films across Tamil Nadu and Kerala. I think it's a different sort of paradigm or model, which totally reflected the Western Keralan geography. I think it also breaks the homogenization of Dalit identity or such kind of portrayal in Indian cinema, because it also sets a different variety of Palghat or or Changara or Western Ghat Kerala portion model that is totally different from Punjabi Jat related Dalit identity, which is focused or portrayed by Gurvinder Singh in his Anegore Dadan, or the kind of Fundry kind of ethos which is depicted by Nagraj Manjule in his Fundry. I think that's why I was deeply touched by the film, and thought to circulate and screen among the society, and try to invoke a kind of larger debate on the film. So this is my relation with the film and Papilio with Jayan Cherian. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Pradeep. Would you like to respond, Jayan? Or
Thank you, Pradeep. Thank you for analyzing it, and thank you being part of it. And thank you very much, Pradeep.
yeah, anyone else?
Jayan, before I forget, at the end you can tell me what happened to your Siddhi script. At the end, not now. Yes.
Yeah, that project is going on.
We will discuss it at the end and let others have a.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, Nikhila, I think you have unmuted.
Yeah, if no one else wants to come in, I just thought I can just say a couple of things. Really, thanks, Brinda, for suggesting this film. I think it was screened in EFL University also around the time of its release and discussion in India, probably around 2013-14, and I had somehow missed it. So I'm really glad that I could watch the film. I think many of our students are quite familiar with the film, and I had not watched it earlier. In that sense, really happy to have watched the film, and that both of you could, be here in Talking Films Online is really wonderful. And also friends who have not been here so far, Pradeep Shetty, who we are happy to welcome to Talking Films Online via this film as well. As far as my response to the film goes, I mean, it's not all clearly formulated in my head, so I'll kind of be thinking aloud. Since particularly this issue of aesthetic and political, Brinda mentioned it, and so did Pradeep. So maybe I'll just begin with that. When I was watching the film, of course, the frames are very beautiful and very striking, and particularly the long shots and the long takes, more than the long shots, the long takes. When I was just gazing at the screen, and there were moments when the shot was not cut even after its so-called narrative function was fulfilled. So it was like one was willing the shot to end, but it would not. And there was this kind of meditative frame that Jayan seems to employ. That was something that was particularly striking for me, that this logic of the cut, which goes along generally with the narrative logic, was not something that I found working. So to me, it seems like the aesthetic function and the political function, rather than coming together, there seemed to be a disjuncture and somewhat of a tension between the two of them. Not that they are coming together to fulfill a kind of grand vision or whatever, but largely in trying to pull apart the film in different directions. I thought there is some kind of tension as well. This tension also to me works at the level of the narrative. If one wants to think of this film as somewhat of a as Jayan was speaking, it's very, very clear that he's so informed, or his film is so informed by so many of the contemporary events that were happening around 2000, the first and the second decade of 2000s. So it seems to me that, if in that sense, if one wants to think of this film as some kind of an allegory, it looks like what it is referring to, the second order reference, seems to me to be somehow controlling the first order reference, which is the fictionalizing part of it. So that I thought was, mattered more, much more than the first order, the laying out of the characters, making the narrative plausible at the level of the first order, and so on. And immediately, actually, I also was trying to, it reminded me of a Kannada film called Hombanna. I don't know, Pradeep and Paniraj and others may be aware of this 2017 film. Which is also, in a sense, giving us the politics of, these land struggles and the attempt to bring in a number of discourses. Hombanna is the character there, and how he is unfortunately, denied in this kind of attempt. And later, Tarkeshwar reminded me of another film called Jatta. So in that sense, this film is kind of, I won't say overdetermined, but certainly controlled by the second order reference rather than to the narrative, the first order of the narrative itself. And I just have two short questions to ask Jayan since he's here. One is this Pulaya, the Pulaya community, the caste that you refer to in the film. From my own little bit of reading into Kerala and the context of Kerala, it seems to me that it is caste, but there are also times where you seem to refer to them as indigenous tribals, Adivasis. I'm not sure if I have watched the film closely enough, but I got this sense that, somewhere the caste and the tribe aspect, is it because of the history of the Pulayas and, this history where they were known as slaves who have lost their lands, and is it coming from there? I was not sure. Also, I thought during the colonial period, Christianity formed a very important part of the constitution of Pulaya identity. When you're critiquing or when you're providing an alternative, I was also curious as to how come this Christian ground for critiquing Hinduism was completely absent. Buddhism, yes, came in, but not so much the way in which Christianity, provided in some ways the first ground for the reforming of the Pulaya community itself. And my second and very somewhat frivolous point is how Padma Priya comes into the film. So these are the two questions that I had for Jayan. Thank you. Yeah, I'll stop at this point. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Nikhila. Nikhila raised very, I'm sorry, something. Raise a very important issue. I have to address that. First, you mentioned Pulaya community. Actually, the Dalit community in Kerala is not homogeneous at all. And Pulayas, you can see that Pulaya is the largest and powerful Dalit community caste in Kerala. But there is Parayas, there is Kuravas, and there is actually you can see the graded inequality within the Indian caste structure among among the Dalit community themselves. In the film, it's most of this DHRM activity and especially Changara struggle, everything happened in central Kerala. And I showed this film in Wayanad. Wayanad also, there is another land struggle going on in Mepadi, which was predominantly run by led by tribal people and Dalit people too, and the different Dalit community too. And in the film, you can see a lot of tribal people. At the same time, Dalit people too. In Changara, the Changara struggle was in the central Kerala struggle, but you can see that that is a common platform of Dalit people and tribal people coming together in there. But this is a creation. Mepara, a land which is mythically created in the film. And a lot of things, a lot of issue, actually the struggles and the ethnic people are mixing it because of just very purposely did it. Because it's very hard to distinguish and represent all these nuances and subcasteism in Kerala. When I am talking about a Pulaya community is also subdivided by various communities. And they have, there is Pal Pulayas, Velayama Pulayas, and Kuda Pulayas. Even Kuda Pulayas, in the caste hierarchy, Kuda Pulayas, the Pal Pulayas can't even eat from Kuda Pulayas' home. And and then you come back to Parayas. Parayas also one of the prominent Dalit community. And also there is caste pride in between them. And then you see Kuravas. The Kurava leaders leading the central Kerala, actually Laha Gopalan, who is the leader of the Changara struggle, was a Kurava person. And the DHRM is majority is coming from the Kurava background. And other prominent Dalit groups have their own reservation to associate with them. And this is also, there is kind of a lot of inner subcasteism is going on. It's very complex. But and since the Dalit people and the tribal people and all these people are fighting for their lands, and each people have their own different plight and different reasons. Even the first Adivasi land struggle was initiated in 1992 by Janu. That was a tribal struggle, that is completely Adivasi movement. Actually, all this being said, I want to tell a story to communicate to the outer world. So I take the freedom as an artist to merge several things, several nuances, in order to easily tell a story to outside. When you come to when you switch from the non-fiction to fiction, then the storytelling have its own logic, its own way to come to your mind as a storyteller. So these nuances, that is, as a storyteller, my inability to capture all these internal complexities of caste system in Kerala, that was kind of, that is why my inability to distinguish this inner nuances of subcasteism and subtribalism within the work. And you rightly pointed out, of course, that is an issue. The second issue, I think
Jayan, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
But just once again, a reminder, we will be going off in less than a minute.
Okay.
So please log in again through the same link.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you may carry on.
Yeah. That Nikhila, can you remind me what was your raising the second part?
About Christianity and about Padma Priya.
Yeah.
Latter is not so important, but about Christianity.
No, the Christianity is kind of very important issue. Well, let me sign on again. And I will tell you about it. Padma Priya is just a friend, and she just come and associate, and she play a character of.
We are discussing about Umbaya and Giriraj's Jatta and his later
Yes.
Amravati. And in fact, we wanted Giriraj and Cherian to meet at some time together.
Okay.
Because South Indian Dalit narratives itself, and then as you go to Maharashtra and as you go to Gurvinder's Anna Gorindan. So we have been thinking, me, Pradeep, and all our friends are thinking about how to theorize the Dalit narratives, because we have a lot of, especially in Telugu and Kannada, we have a lot of literary Dalit narratives, which are also part of the aesthetics. So how to build it? Satyarada has done a South Indian narrative. He has brought 2 books, I suppose, on literary narratives of Dalits in various South Indian languages. So, like aesthetically in films, including Rajiv Ravi's Kamati Padam, and other Malayalam works, and then Tamil films, including Paranjit's, Maria Selvaraju, Lenin Bharti, and all, and coming to Karnataka. Karnataka, there are different narratives also. I mean, like as Jayan said, there are many groups and many representations. There are also many narratives. So there are multiple narratives, but what kind of aesthetics binds them? What is that? That's very interesting for us. And once Jayan comes somewhere in Karnataka, I mean, we wanted Jayan to be in February or March, and all that happened, and Jayan went to New York. And we wanted Giriraj and Jayan to meet and do something like this. I mean, we are still interested to gather the filmmakers together and talk on this. Yeah.
Jayan, you may continue. You had to stop abruptly. Jayan, I think you need to unmute your mic.
Thank you, Faniraj. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Nikhila raised an important question about Christianity, particularly in Kerala. You can see the caste system is not a special case for Hinduism. Kerala, the Christians are fiercely practicing caste system. Even the earlier times, actually earlier Syrian Christians, Christianity they are saying that they have 1500 to 2000 years of history in Kerala. But the earlier Christians, they call it the quote unquote Syrian Christians, they create their own pseudo-historic nobility. They construct their own nobility as they have a lot of narratives, and that Syrian Christians is one of the prominent group who is spreading the Brahminical values in Kerala. They are practicing sheer casteism. And the recently in Kerala, last year there was an honor killing happened by Syrian Christians. A Dalit Christian boy fell in love with a Syrian Christian girl, and Kevin, his name is Kevin in Kottayam, he hacked and lynched and with the help of government, with the government of police, and the Syrian Christians family, the girl's parents, belongs to the left affiliation, so-called middle class left. We can then I'm just coming back to the truth that the Christianity in Kerala and the Muslims also practicing caste. There is upper caste Muslims, there is upper caste Christians, and especially the Dalit Christians in Kerala is treated as really as any other Dalits by the Christians, by the Syrian Christians. And they are not when in come to in terms of casteism, the traditional Kerala Christians are not in the progressive side at all. They are the casteist people, and also there is missionary element. The missionary Christians, I mean the foreign missionaries, since the Dutch and the Germans and English missionaries start to convert Christians to Christianity, really, and that conversion doesn't make, in Kerala context, there is an educational benefit, there is some progress, but still Dalit Christians are considered as Pulaya Christians, Paraya Christians, Cherian Christians, and Kurava Christians. That kind of division is still within the Christianity there. So this change of religion never make any difference. But of course, there is in the missionary work and the intervention of the Christian missionaries are make a huge difference in education and all kind of things. Historically, nobody can deny that. But currently, it is not changed any caste status of the Dalit people in Kerala, even if they converted to Christianity. And that was I think I addressed your question, right? If I understand rightly, that was your question, right?
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you.
And in the film, there is a character says that. There is a character in the film telling Shankaran about that, you are just a Pulaya Christian. If you convert, if you baptize, that doesn't mean you will be only a Pulaya Christian. There is a scene in the film also, I think. And in factually, these all Syrian Christians are converted from the slave communities earlier time of 300 or 400 or 500 years ago. That was the fact. But they created a pseudo lineage to Brahminism. Saint Thomas come to Kerala and convert all the Brahmins. That is absolutely foolish construct. And actually, they are really constructed it about that myth start to appear in history recently, about colonial time, since the colonial time. One of the reason I think that the missionaries were saying that once you are once you baptized, your lineage is go to the Abrahamic tradition, to the Adam and Eve, and if you are from the paganism or whatever religion you are, you're converted to Christianity, you are automatically connected to the noble lineage of the Abrahamic genealogy. And then you can say you are the, you can call himself, you are the noblest people in the land. Once you're Christian, you're born again. So then they look around and the noblest creatures in the land is kind of Brahmins. And they say the Brahmins converted to Christianity. That mythology they created. But a lot of historians even believes that and propagating that, even the books says that. And there is historical monument where Saint Thomas came to Kerala. Even if you go say, if you go there and you can see, they will show you the churches he's planned, he founded, and even the families, 7 families, the Brahmin families he converted. They pointed out to you, but but there is no historical evidence for that. I mean, of course, we know that is totally created, the constructed nobility. Even most of this caste nobility, caste pride is this kind of construct. If you go any caste groups who is claiming the nobility, So back to one, this in Kerala, casteism is across all religion. Muslims, even Muslims are hugely practicing caste too, and Brahmin and Hindus and Christians, and nobody, even Communist Party practicing caste system. I say.
Okay. Okay. Would anyone else like to raise a question?
Sorry.
Um,
Yeah,
I would like to ask a question if I may.
Yes,
yeah.
Pratyusha, please go ahead.
One second,
Evening,
I'll make a
everyone.
point. And
I had two questions. One was regarding the scene where you say, the character, he's pointing out that he cannot be politically accurate or politically right. And there's the same scene where he's pointed out that even if he changes, he's going to be a Puliya Brahmin or whatever. I mean, he speaks about political accurateness. So I want to just ask that, is it hinting towards the lot of Dalit scholars or the Dalit literature that are coming up, which are preaching something but practicing something else? And there is another question that I had to ask. There is a lot of juxtaposition of the images, like once where Shankaran's baby picture is juxtaposed against the image of the Shankaran leader. Then there is Shankaran in the imprisonment and the Papilio Buddha who is in the glass container. And at the end, where we see that the statue of Buddha being juxtaposed against the image against Shankaran himself. So I would come back to the question what Brinda ma'am actually also asked, that how does this all come back to the title of Papilio Buddha? So that is something I wanted to know.
That is kind of very amazing question. It's a loaded question. I have to answer a lot. Papilio Buddha is, but as Brenda pointed out, it is a subspecies of Papilio papilioni, which is generally called Paris peacock, and the Paris peacock called Malabar banded peacock. Actually, that is a butterfly. In Western Ghats, about 333 species of butterflies. So endangered butterflies. About 200 and 250 of them very endemic to the region. And this Malabar banded peacock, particularly Papilio Buddha, a Buddha Mayuri, that is the local Lepidopteris called. That particular butterfly is very endemic and endangered. And 1982 Wildlife Protection Act in India, under Schedule 2, I think the Papilio Buddha is protected by this central government Wildlife Protection Act. Even catching a Papilio Buddha is a crime, technically. But several Lepidopteris Lepidopteris are coming to Kerala and collecting the species all around. And even the Papilio Buddha is a beautiful butterfly which has this discoloration. Early morning, it's a greenish, like peacock featherish color changed to dense green. And it is kind of very beautiful butterfly. It can be used for the decorative purpose in the West. One is that. And the other is the interesting entomologist and lepidopterist come and collecting the butterfly from there. In 1996, there is entomologist from Texas arrested in Nelambur forest. His name is not Jack, but as in the film. And actually, that is to creating that character. That historical incident inspired me. Is one thing. The other thing is the Papilio Buddha butterfly is kind of going some parallel to the native people or the Dalit people who is constitutionally protected. Even Ambedkar himself wrote a huge and excellent constitution for us, and it's kind of all kind of constitutional protection for this people and also environment. But they are haunted, they are tortured, and that parallel is there. And beyond that, Papilio Buddha have this name from Japanese Lepidopterists in 1800s. They are excavating, they are doing their excavations in the Western Ghats. And they named the Malabar banded peacock name, they give the name Papilio Buddha because there is a reason. In Buddhist mythology, actually the Shalabha, Buddha Shalabha, especially the butterfly is explained as to explain the momentariness of life. It is exuberance and at the same time momentariness of the life. And also the butterfly images are all over in the mythologies. Even the Navajo mythology in America, the Native American mythology, there is a butterfly chief in Navajo mythology who is bisexual, who can be turned to male and satisfy the sexual urges of the clan, the female clan members, and also he changed to female in order to satisfy the clan members of the male clan members, and this kind of a very fluid butterfly image in the Navajo mythology. Later, that word maricon in Spanish we are using as a derogative term for the homosexuality is coming from this this Mario Pozo. Even later, the fiction writer takes the name Mario Pozo. Mario Pozo. Actually, the maricon Mario Pozo, this mythology is also related to this butterfly thing. And also butterfly also a representation of sexual exuberance and the images of say, homosexuality or bisexuality or the queer sexuality in several mythology. So there is several reasons to come into picture the figure, I mean Papilio Buddha in the film. And also there is a Shankaran's image juxtaposition. Of course, Shankaran is, there is 3 Shankarans in the film. One is Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya is hegemonically appropriated the Madhyamika Darshana and plagiarized as the Advaita. We all know that that's tradition, how the Buddhist tradition was, the tradition of argumentation itself. This Buddhist Anatmavada is later defeated by this Advaita very treacherously. And also Shankaran, the next Shankaran is EMS Shankaran, is the baby picture of the Shankara is together. There's a Dalit Shankaran, there's a communist Brahmin Shankaran, then Shankaracharya. And you can see that lineage of the philosophical layers. This very complex lineage of philosophy, which is affecting people of Kerala. And before the Hinduism came to Kerala, Brahminical social order came to Kerala, the majority of the Kerala temples are Buddhist or Jain temples. And our, like Shabarimala Ayyappan, you can see that a lot of our gods are Buddhist gods. The Buddha in Avalokiteshvara, the people claim that the Shabarimala temple was a Avalokiteshvara temple. And also lot of temples in Kerala. We have even Kuttanada. Kuttanada means Kuttanda Nada. The Nada belongs to, the land belongs to Kuttan. Kuttan is Bhutan. And Shastava is another name for Buddha. And several, we have that historical memory of Buddhism, Tantric Buddhism especially. And then the Brahminical social order take up and the extended Hinduism tacitly come into hold of Kerala. But this all very complex historical, philosophical things we have to layer in the film. And also EMS Namboodiripad being a communist leader, but in 1986 he was, actually there is a paper in one of the plenum, one of the Bengali comrade, Keen Sen, I think, he was then CITU member, critiquing EMS Namboodiripad. Just he is equating the European idealist like Feuerbach, all kind of Hegel, all kind of European idealist connecting to Shankara philosophy. And the Shankara philosophy also part of the Marxist-Leninist theoretical pantheon. And that kind of argument was in 80s, presented by EMS and strongly critiqued by several people. And there is a Dalit reading of how this saffronization of communist movement in India is a lot of critics pointed out there. And also, of course, personally, it's not personally, and EMS is considered as one of the archetype of the Brahmin communist in Kerala. And actually, this Shankara and Manjusri is not an accident either. Manjusri is just not a Manjusri in a way. It has kind of other connotation. We know the Manjusri, which one, the iconography of Manjusri is sword in one hand and Prajnaparamida is another hand. It's a Buddhist deity. We all know that. And this Manjusri image have this kind of this yin-yang, yab imagery of the Tara Devi and the Buddha in a sexual position is also coming in the film. This is also very, actually it was practiced, Tantric Buddhism was practiced in Kerala before the Brahminical social order hijacked our temples or mythology and everything. So in a way, there is a layering happening in the film that is itself another subject is going through the images. Juxtaposition of a Dalit Shankara with a Brahmin communist Shankara, and that is and a Western eye looking at and equating with the Shankaracharya. Actually, Jack is asking about Shankaracharya. Is that who is this Shankaracharya or something? And this kind of layerings are there, but it is not actually the iconography of the film is can be read that level, but in one level it is a simple story, just it's a simple story. You can take it as, and people can read in several ways. And the other question you were raising about that the political correctness is one character saying the political correctness is not my shit or something, somewhat that level. That was, yes. Yeah, that was in a drinking party, an alcohol party. Majority of the Kerala people are very progressive. They're very progressive. Even the Brahmins or Nayars or Syrian Christians, they're very progressive in their talk and everything. But we practice casteism. We practice endogamy. The Nayar girl will look for Nayar woman or up. Nayar girl will look for Nayar man, or probably Brahmin can go up, never go down. Irava boy or Irava girl look for Irava girls or Nayar girl or up. Upward they can go, marry whoever, but they never look down. If you go to the matrimonial columns of Malayalam Manorama right now, today, you can see there is no caste or religion bar. SC, ST need not to be applied. They will say that, they exclude always scheduled castes and scheduled tribes from these matrimonial columns. And the Syrian Christians, especially, exactly like the very endogamous, and they're very much looking for the same caste and same creed marriage. But it's okay for them to marry apparently upper caste people, or Brahmin or Nayar, it's okay. So this entire marriage or entire caste itself very, very connected with the controlling of the female reproduction. Endogamy is kind of very, very, very key to maintain the casteism. But in peculiar in Kerala casteism, it's kind of very, in a way, very cunning and Hippocratic progressive life we are having. At the same time, very tacitly, we practicing the caste system. I don't, but when you have couple of drinks, you turn off your brain and the real thing will come out. Then the progressive NGO says that after having couple of drinks and having couple of joints and a couple of drags, the thing come out. And he says that was, as Brinda put it, Freudian sleep. It is a sleep, really, really. Otherwise, we are all very, very progressive, decent Kerala intellectuals. So that is one reading of that scene. I lost that train of thought. What was you asking before? I don't know.
Hi.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask about this scene of the rape when the auto actually goes round the auto of Manjushree. I have noticed that these autos have some pictures. One has Che Guevara, one has Gandhi, and one has, I couldn't recognize it, I think some Hindu god on it. Going around this auto. And obviously you might have in your mind the case of Chitralekha, the auto driver. Was it that connection or?
Yeah, there is Chitraleha. I knew Chitraleha's. I personally, I met once Chitraleha, but actually there was a documentary done. One of my friend about Chitraleha was screened a few years before, while I was writing this film. And Chitraleha's story was somewhat inspired me to create that story. But she is not Chitraleha. Manjushree is not Chitraleha. But there is another girl in central Kerala, in Varkala. Her name is Manju, and she's an auto driver, and she also have an experience in the colony. There is a group of policemen come to their home and strip naked her and paraded in the colony. During that DHRM raid in 2009. Okay. And also there is one teacher, DHRM activist called Suma. She also was pregnant and the policeman kicked her on stomach and she got aborted. And that several cases are there. If I take the instance of atrocities committed against a female, especially Dalit female bodies, there is n number of, I can present it. I cannot reduce to one issue. But the people associate that scene and that film, that character with Chitralekha because I shot it in the Payyanur, that area. I showed the film, the same town where Chitralekha was abused and Chitralekha was constantly harassed. She never get raped. Chitralekha never faced that issue, but Chitralekha's issue was majorly happened, and the inflictors, actually the perpetrators, actually this people who is inflicting this all atrocities against her was trade union people, especially CPM leaders, local leaders. They are probably little upper caste trade union people. And also this guys who is involved in the auto rickshaw drivers and that auto rickshaws from exactly, I used in the film that exactly from that Chitralekha's town. Actually, that probably get connected with the people say that there is some comparison or connection similarity with the film. I mean the character and Chitralekha. But Chitralekha's struggle is still continues there. and she is there. I mean, in our film, and she don't have any connection with. And there is a practice of the people, the rickshaw drivers in that particular village, or in general in Kerala, they put their gods pictures in front of their auto rickshaw. And if you can go, there are Krishnas, there are the Trishul, Shivas, there is Islamic writings, and some Subhash Chandra Bose picture in the auto rickshaw. I can see, I saw Gandhi several times, and Che Guevara is very prominent because Che Guevara is kind of a very fashion icon. At the same time, the poster boy of our DOFA revolution. I mean, actually, Che Guevara is the poster boy of the revolution all around the world. Same as in Payanur or that area. But in terms, when they come to, I mean, when you're attacking female, inflicting punitive rape on a girl who tried to transgress the boundaries of gender or gender roles, who in general in India, in any casteist context or any context, rape is considered as a tool of control, a tool of social control in a way. The punitive rape is, there is no color of the party, political party or religion in it, So that scene we are trying to curate that scene. I mean, actually, the block that scene in order to communicate this idea. There is no political difference when come to sexism or aggressive sexism, or to use rape as a mode of social control.
Yeah, something else which I noticed about the film is that usually even when Buddha image is used to talk about the Dalit movement and all, it's shown as, Buddha is shown as an asexual being. But in this film, he's not portrayed like that. You already answered that question, so I'm not asking that again, but it was very interesting.
It's very interesting. If you go to Buddhist land, if you go to any Buddhist place in China, even Himachal Pradesh, if you go up in the hills, Spiti Valley, if you go anywhere, people practicing Tantric Buddhism, Buddha is very sexual being. Buddha.
Yeah, another question which I wanted to ask is that this film actually, the focus of the film is on the Dalit movement which happened in Kerala during that time, as you said. But it begins with scenes of homosexuality, and there is a strain of homosexuality going through the film. So what made you mix these two things? While the focus is the Dalit movement, you also raised this issue of homosexuality. What made you mix these two things?
First of all, homosexuality is not an issue. It is not an issue. Sexuality is sexuality. And two men kissing, not necessarily is a big deal. It's a sexual expression. They can have sex, they can have ejaculated themselves, and whatever it is, sexuality. Sex is sex, it can be homosexual, it can be same sex or heterosex or anything. Actually, I just want to blur this kind of, this binary idea about sexuality. And the film is not even, we people practice all the full rainbow of sexuality. And it is happening always. It is not a new thing. But unfortunately, our story writers, filmmakers, they only portrayed heterosexuality. They only see, it is also part of the roadside attraction, but nobody capturing it. That's all. It is happening, always there. It is actually, the film is not addressing sexuality as an issue in the film, as homosexuality as an issue in the film. There is homosexual expressions, heterosexual expressions. That's all. That's all. And I'm not claiming that I'm addressing any issue in the film. The issue is coming later. I'm just telling a story on the milieu of the land struggle. This what happens. A story happening at the front and the behind the screen or behind this main narrative. There's several things going on. That's all. I think it is not convincing enough. I don't know.
There are no final answers, so it's okay. It's just like
I mean, it is.
something-
I'm just insisting that I'm just stressing that point. Homosexuality is not an issue. Sexuality itself not an issue. It is a behavior. It is taste and aptitude, which is a human behavior.
No, I was not saying that it was an issue. I just asked, while the focus of the film was on the DHRM movement and all that, but the film started from that scene. So why you did it so? That was my question. I think you answered it to a certain extent.
Yeah.
I think Bhagyalakshmi has unmuted her mic. So would you like to speak, Bhagyalakshmi?
Yes, ma'am. And thank you, Jayan sir, for such a wonderful movie, and Brinda ma'am for the interesting thoughts. And in the movie, these are just my observations actually. This is how I have read the movie. The movie seems to question the history of Marxism and feminism, and how Dalit identity separates itself by alienating from the so-called Brahminical Marxist movements and all Brahminical movements and all, and perhaps maybe in the name Papilio Buddha, the rare species always alone. And one of the powerful movies I have ever seen. That's why it got banned, obviously. The movie seems to historicize politically the stages of Dalit movement in Kerala. First stage, outsiders are addressing the Dalit issues. The second one, dealing with Jack or Christianity, and no changes at all. They can only become Pulaya Christians or someone like that. And later they are trying to find their identity in Ambedkar and Iyengali by rejecting Hinduism, Gandhian nationalism and Brahminical Marxism, and embracing Buddhism. And also, I also related the story of Manjushri with that of Chitralekha. Actually, I got it corrected. And the movie seems to be, and anyways, it's very realistic how she is treated in the male-dominated area. And the movie seems to be relevant now also for the Maoist and sexist discourses, which is a part of Kerala now. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah. Anyone else would like to speak?
Yeah, yes,
I think
yes.
Fanira. Yes,
No, I just
Fanira.
want to add one thing about the rickshaw incident and Chitralekha and all that. Jayan, 2018 also in Kasaragod, the same thing happened. A Dalit rickshaw driver being harassed by CITU. 2018, as late as 2018, post your film in Kasaragod that happened, and we did some demonstrations because we are the coast and we are near to it, and Dalit organizations raised it, and we did some demonstration about again against CITU. I mean, asking CITU to look into these casteist issues of how casteist behavior goes on. That's one point. And second point, again and again coming up and Jayan explaining it, after watching Ka Bodyscape in Mangalore, Jayan was not there. Jayan was invited, but he didn't come at the time. I told Pradeep that Jayan packs too many things in a film which could be made 2 or 3 films. That's my critic, Jayan, a lovely critic.
Yeah, that's a fact. Probably I'm so afraid that people will kill me. I have to tell all one before. It is a cataloging. It is kind of a nature of my narrative. It's coming out of that way. That is a criticism I took very seriously, and I'm trying to refine myself and to more focus on.
But
Paniraj
Yeah.
was saying that it is kind of a lot of things coming into one film. It is actually that's the way it is coming out of when I conceive these things. That's the way it is coming out because I am trying to capture the time and space where I live and interact, and things happening around me is not in a very linear way or in a very focused manner. Everything is one side. There's a cow lynching is going on. At the same time, there is an anti-fascist person who's propagating anti-fascist philosophy, anti-fascist struggle in the streets, come back home and oppressing his own daughter or his own wife at home, a male, but going out of his home, and he is an anti-fascist warrior in the streets. And in several things happening in simultaneously. It's very complex. When I look at the time, my history, people who is surrounded me, or issues I am dealing with, a lot of issues coming together. It's all catalog. And probably when I conceive an idea for a film, this cataloging is built in my the narrative consciousness, and it is coming out of that way. I never, so I want to, I'm in a way very greedy artist to express a lot of things together. So probably people don't like it. Some people like it. Doesn't matter, I just do it. Is what's my intuition says. That's it.
I also feel that beyond the liking and the disliking, I think it adds to the layering that you were talking about, that, life is not focused on just one thing. So all that interweaving of, something that I was trying to say, that even while there's rage and anger, there's also this lust for life, and there's, sex and food and tenderness and all of that. So I think the multiple stories add to that, this sense that, we are living life always. I mean, that's a cliche, but it's also true that we're, constantly at various windows, literally. So I thought that really added to it, the sexuality, the politics, the religion, of course, central question of caste that you're dealing with, but the land and, the landscape, all of that sort of added to the texture of the life that you're talking about, that it's a catalog of various things that one is constantly, sort of negotiating as well as bringing together in some sense. So it worked for me, I think. I mean, I like that, the fact that you do that you bring these multiple consciousnesses in some senses, or even our multiple selves, at play at the same time. That's really intriguing, and I think it added to the richness of the films.
And apart from layering, I think it also shows the linkages and the connections between these different categories. No, you can't think of one in isolation. When you're talking about, caste and gender and all, they're all deeply connected. So So in that sense also, I think, it's
Right.
not just about putting the different things together, but they are
Right.
there because they need to be there, like,
And also something that Nikhila was saying, which is really important, that there is a tension. That tension is
yeah.
what makes it work. That in some senses they're pulling against each other, and that contradiction and that tension is what makes it art for me. Not, I mean, if they seamlessly came together, then there would be really no story to tell, in some sense. So I think that is also so important.
And Jayan, how did you conceptualize the end of the film? I think that for me was just absolutely beautiful. Those long shots of the exodus of these
Yeah.
people, when they are evicted from their land, and then they are moving, and in one particular shot you see them right on the top of the hill and really tiny. It's like a row of ants, and
Yeah.
it's also so symbolic. It's just like, ants being, crushed. So, you have this thin row of people going. It reminded me of the South African artist William Kentridge's
Yes, exactly.
animated drawings,
Yeah,
those
yeah.
animated drawings that he has
Silhouette.
of a very similar theme also, of people being evicted, and then they are carrying their little bit of saman and leaving. And so how did you think of this kind of an ending for the film?
That if you go to Wayanad and that earth and the beautiful hills being eaten by these JCBs and the quarries, the stone quarries and the mining places. And these all hills are like taken away. And when we are telling a story, we are telling the story, not only the people, the nature, the topography, also part of the character. In Papilio, the nature and the topography is the central character. The atrocities we are committing against the nature is same as the atrocities is committing against that ecosystem. And the Dalit people and the little monkeys and the plants and the trees, and they're all part of that ecosystem. So this, but I want to use that long shots in order to tell the proximity of the people and this humans and this nature, how small these creatures are, but at the same time, all the huge rocks are carved down to the valley by the humans. And, that is the UN heritage area, the Western Ghats, and particularly that huge rock quarry is right now environmentally very sensitive place. At the same time, the Edakal cave writings are there. One of the very ancient writings or the cave pictures done by the actually Neolithic age is one of the culturally very sensitive, archaeologically very sensitive area, but we totally devastated that area. So I want to capture the devastation of the nature. At the same time, the never-ending exodus of human. We are seeing, especially the upper caste, upper middle caste people, who is sitting back in the theater and looking at the screens. And they are just watching people just going and going and going. This never-ending exodus. This exodus we are seeing in the little villages of India to the cities and people back. The same as in Kerala, from the like a Chengara struggle, the government offered land in the southern place of in the northern extreme of Kerala, and the people moved there, and there was that a barren land, and people then moved back to the Kollam district, Aripa. They started struggle there, and one place to one place these people are going, and also this movement is happening from the villages to cities, and the peripheries of the middle class life always. But it is going on when we are. I'm just referring to Saina's expression of the Nero's guest. When we think he is explaining that how the party guest of the Roman citizen sitting there and watching, having a night garden party, which is lit by the dead bodies, which is burning in the stakes. And this Nero's guest and sitting in the galleries and watching this. The Indian middle class is Nero's guest, as Sainath says that. This Indian middle class sitting down, but there is a nightmarish, never-ending exodus happening in the periphery of their consciousness. They are just sometimes awaking to that and feed into their daily news cravings and going back to their inner world. But this exodus is never-ending. It's nightmarish, never-ending exodus of these people going in the periphery of the Indian middle class mind. So the people who is watching the film, seeing these people as moving, they want a cut. They're asking for a cut, but I am not cutting. I'm refusing to cut. I just want to frustrate that audience who is sitting down watching this. This man is not cutting, it's boring. That's enough for me, enough for me. So like that, I want to get out of a nightmare. I desperately want to get out of it, but I can't. That feeling, I just want to inflict on this audience. So that is my aesthetic decision, to inflict that kind of feeling to the person who is watching. At the same time, it is happening against the leftover, whatever leftover nature we have, the skeletons of this Wayanad hills, just like sometimes it's ghostly, that place. Once it was kind of very beautiful place, but it was ghostly. That frames are designed to convey these ideas, basically. I think, I put it there. I don't know it work or not. Some people say it works. Some people say desperately, I want to cut. I don't want this long scene at all. It is like a 8 minute, like a 2-3 minute shorts. They feel like 30-minute shorts. Most of the critics are complaining against that shorts, but I just tell them that that is the idea. That is what I want to make them feel. I don't know I'm successful in it or not, but I did it that way. I'm just happy with it anyway.
Thank you.
I think I answered your question.
Yeah, certainly.
I think it's a political decision to political statement, kind of a political statement. Recently, I was watching a debate on Amarian, John Abraham's Amarian. There, the editor Bina Paul makes a very interesting statement that in which there is a scene or shot of 10 minutes, especially with involved procession, very long 10-minute procession scene actually shot. Bina suggested to cut it into 1 minute or 2 minutes. But he simply denied that. He suggested, and he was very firm. Firmly, he said that, those are the people who were participated in that particular struggle. How can I omit that particular scene? I think same sort of.
And he has called them to the location, and they have come there. Yeah.
Exactly. So eventually, Bina, she got the meaning, and she was. Willingly edited the whole scene. That's what.
Long 11-minute shot. Yeah.
Exactly.
He said that
I think
all of them, I called all of them and all of them have come and they have participated and we should show them. That's our
with the,
morality.
exactly, and with the same spirit also.
I was
And I
editing,
think
though I don't want to argue with an editor, but I have to deal with a producer.
exactly. No. Eventually, it's your creative space and decision, because it's an idea, as you said. It's a political statement too. You're making kind of statement. You're making a statement. And I think your films are more important because they break the mythology around Kerala. We non-Keralites always feel that Kerala is 100% literacy country, state, and God owns country, and many such romantic hashtags and tags. But actually, your narratives, and there are other narratives also. Recently, Lenin Bharati's idea and his dissection of Communist Party politics and the common man in his Merkur Todarchi Malai also says the same thing. It gives a different idea of Kerala, exclusive Kerala and unrepresented Kerala, I think.
It's good film. I watched it. It's a nice film. And also there is, that's why I have a lot of enemies there. But we are all,
related to this, I would like to ask, is your position being outside India helps you in making this kind of political films? Like if you are located within Kerala, your life itself will be threatened.
not like that, so the people are making a lot of films from there too, but your film not going to be come out. Actually, when you're living there, you have to live there. You have to make a lot of compromises. Probably not only compromises. When you're living outside, you will look at your own culture. It will give you more tools to look at more critically, I think. I love being a Malayali, and I love my place, and I love Kerala. But India, and my culture is India. The first I come, I'm an Indian. Basically, I love my culture, India, everything. But we have to really change a lot of our cultural behaviors. And cultural behaviors, institutions like last 1.5 millenniums, we are having this kind of one of the most oppressive tool of oppression, which is one of the most poisonous tool of oppression, which is caste system. It is reincarnating every decade and every century, and still it is very powerful in all walks of our life. And we have to look at ourselves and to do something. I don't think we can change like that. Even how many years now the Annihilation of Caste speech is written by Dr. Ambedkar, and still we cannot. How many waters are just gone under the bridge, and still we are day to day coming in the newspaper. You can see that there is the hundreds of cases of caste atrocities, and coming recently. I just read an article in the newspaper in Munnar, nearby this Tamil Nadu Kerala border. There is a group of a group of barbers refused to cut the hair of particular caste people, especially Chakliya caste people or something. I mean, recently, last week, and
yeah, few days back,
and they are serving in the tea shops. They're serving special glasses for particular caste people. I mean, still it is happening. It is not happening in deep cow belt in Ganges. It's happening in Kerala, and we are bragging ourselves on 100% literacy, progressive this and blah, 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 and all kind of thing, but it is happening. But we have, if you're coming out of there and looking back to it will give you more tools to look at you more critically, I think, if you go outside. Probably, I'm not sure, but there's people who living there, they're also very critical about these things, and they're fighting too.
Yeah, Paranjit in a recent interview have talked about this.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you are talking just about communism and other is okay, but in Tamil Nadu something is happening. Like, the Dravid movement has brought the Shudra identity, but now who is oppressing the like? I mean, there are layers to the caste oppression, and that's what I try to address. Like, there are many films which are recognizing caste which are oppressing the like.
Not only caste.
So, I mean,
if you have a difference of opinion, there you will be get killed. So we can have
kind of things are there.
a number of cases. So Gauri Langesh to Dr. Pansara, Kalburgi, and you can bring a lot of cases. But the thing is that people have living in our own society, and if you critical of certain things, people take it personal and make your life impossible there. You lose a lot of things. You're a poet, they never call you for a reading. You never get properly published, properly your work launched in a way, and you never get a venue. You ostracized, or you will be, and the people are deeply divided in particular groups. You have to be either left or right or extreme right. No, you have to be in one way or other in one group. So if you critique, that is what happened in Facebook. You put a post critiquing Marxist Party, you will be stamped as a agent of imperialism or agent of Sanghi. And if you criticize Sanghi, the other people call you Sudapi, or that is your Islamic fundamentalist. And if your name is Christian, you are part of this kind of the papal conspiracy, conspiracy or something. Now they put you anywhere. They want to put you in a box. So without any box, in any group, you cannot survive. That is a tragedy. The free mind is, there is no such a person called a free thinker in India. In India, you can see you have to be one religious group anywhere, or one political group anywhere. That is one reason you can see most of these people hacked to death in last decades. You can see the intellectuals and cultural activists are the atheists. They are not supported by anyone. Gauri Langesh or to Dr. Kalburgi or anyone you can use, see this, most of these people assassinated by the either fascist group, the Islamic fascist or Hindu fascist or any other people. They are less supported people who is equal opportunity offenders are always in problem. The free thinkers are always haunted by the system. So it is very hard to survive in any society which is dominated by the conservative ideas. In Kerala, it's make it more difficult. We are a conservative society, pretend to be progressive. That is the thing.
Anyone else has a question or a comment? Anyone who has not yet spoken? Tarkeshwar, Arun.
I think Sanjay and Arun.
Sanjay, yeah, Sanjay.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the use of irony in this film through the juxtaposition of scenes about which Jayan K. Cherian already talked. So there are two things to talk about. One, I mean, there are so many other things, but I'll only talk about two things. One is the role of Neo-Gandhians in a very, I would say, violent peacemaking, and the police who are spreading brutalities, but they are calling others as terrorists. Okay, So we see that in the very beginning of the film that how the protagonist Shankaran has very tender feelings when he is passing through the field. He finds one peacock who is dead, and he is moved by that, and then he picks it up. And then when they are going, and in the beginning of the film, the police van comes to pick up somebody, and then they are discussing who is it. Then this Cherian says that it can be anybody. So that shows that it can be really anybody. That means we get the feeling at that time that even these people can be caught. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you are a Maoist, whether you are an innocent person, whether you are a person who is not even politicized. Forget about radicalized. So this Shankaran appears in the beginning in a very, he's almost, he is not at all politicized in the beginning. It's gradually that we come to know, and that uh, it is supposed to be funny that when he comes back from the party and he starts reading this book of Kanchaileya, why I am not a Hindu. And then the girl says that, why, so you realized it now, that you are still a Pulaya, you realize it now. So gradually that politicization is getting built up in this film. And when he goes to this, he's caught up, he's arrested, and then he's being asked, he's being branded as terrorist, Maoist, and so many things. But later on in the film, we see that it is actually the police who is practicing the terrorism, not this guy Shankaran. And the second thing about this violent peacemaking which appears in the film is at one level, of course, it also gives the historical background of that 1932. When Ambedkar had an agreement with. I think the representative of Gandhi, Madan Mohan Malviya or somebody who represented Gandhi, and that he's through his past he in a way destroyed this. So again, it appears in the form of neo Gandhians how through the past they are destroying the the Dalit movement. So in the film, it has been shown beautifully. They are singing Raghupati Raghav Raja Ram, and then and that appears threatening when we watch that. That so-called peaceful people, singing bhajans, they seem to be threatening, intimidating, trying to make desperately peace through violent means, actually. And that has been beautifully shown in this film. And why I said, these Gandhians, okay, historically, of course, related, but these neo-Gandhians also, at a certain level, appear as a caricature of Gandhism, because at least in Gandhi, there was an anarchist streak, through Tolstoy and other people, that, the sense of difference between law and justice. So he also broke that salt law, whereas this neo-Gandhian has been presented when the journalists are saying that so many activists are supporting this movement. Then he says, they are illegal, doing something illegal, they are breaking the law. But even Gandhi broke the law. That was his anarchist streak in his political practice. So these, at one level, these neo-Gandhians appear as a caricature of Gandhism also. These are the 2 points which I wanted to raise. Otherwise, there are so many other incidents which show irony through the juxtaposition of scenes about which Jayan already talked about. So, yeah, thank you very much. And I'm sorry, and just one thing I liked particularly one scene when this they are singing, they're sitting in the round in the circle, and the camera is moving. It gave me a feeling that you are going with the rhythm of the of the song, and the camera is moving very slowly. I don't know how you planned it, but it is from left to right. It is like kind of panning, that it moves slowly and it goes along with the rhythm of the song which they are singing. that is, it appeared very beautiful to me, aesthetically pleasing. Thank you.
And actually, thank you very much. You refer that Dr. Ambedkar's 1932 Pune Pact issue. It was kind of very aggressive gesture to Ambedkar. It's not a request or anything. They are twisting Ambedkar's arms, and they threaten. They start to initiate a genocide to all over in Maharashtra and UP, and all Dalit people will get killed. That's why Dr. Ambedkar give up this long fought communal award. You know that all this history of the round tables, and Dr. Ambedkar went to England and lobbying to getting a separate constituency for Dalit people. And then Donald Ramsey, 1928, was declaring this communal award kind of a great achievement for Dalit people. But Gandhi shrewdly did it. Gandhi is not a peacenik or anything. You know. Gandhi was very aggressive politician, always aggressive, and shrewd too. Even and he interfere all these little satyagrahas happened all over. The Kshetra Pravesana Vilambaram happened in Kerala, the Vakyam Satyagraha. As Gandhi was insist to eliminate all atheist people out of it. Christian people, the one Barrister Joseph, he insisted get him out of it. And he makes sure all these Vakyam Satyagraha are led by the upper caste Congress people, upper caste Hindu Congress people. And also he insists for that. And in several time we can see that. And this Reghupati Rajaram, the song, the so-called Gandhi bhajan, is so harmless bhajan. And it is kind of, I just want to make it as very aggressive song in the film. The same as the slogans, like 10 years ago, if somebody say, Jai Sri Ram, nothing for us, you know, there's a Jai Sri Ram, Ram Ram, probably North Indian people have a common thing. Now is anybody say Jai Sri Ram is kind of something going on my, fear, just to shriek through my belly. Somebody say Jai Sri Ram nearby me when I travel alone. Anytime the people can attack by the name, by just pronouncing Jai Sri Ram. And throughout the time we can know, we know how it is changing the slogans and how it became, things are getting more scary. And Gandhi bhajan can be very, very strong, useful tool too. And thank you for pointing that out.
Okay. We have very little time now left, just about, I think, 6.57 minutes.
Okay,
if anyone has a quick comment or question, please go ahead. Otherwise, I think we will just thank Jayan and Brinda and end the session. Yes, Tarkeshwar? You have one.
Thank you for the film. The film ably communicates the exploitation of a particular community. But what is this community is something that we were wondering all through the film, because whether it's a caste or a tribal group. But you answered it, saying that you merged the things because that was necessary for you to. But this merging and bringing in several issues, which Pariraj called as packaging, and others tried to call it as layering. And I was wondering, for some people it might look too many issues are coming in, and for some people it might look like layered, especially those of us who teach in universities about identity politics and intersections of intersectionality of identities and things like that. But it is also possible characters in the narrative, they don't remain with us. In the sense that except for 2 or 3 characters, we don't have the backstory of the characters. That there's no story behind the characters. Except for that fellow who was a communist and then later joins the Dalit movement. And then the fellow has come back from JNU. And even this Manjushri, we don't have a backstory for her. So in that sense, there is none of the characters remain in our mind, but the theme comes across to us. So the theme takes the precedence over the characters. Similarly, the narrative focuses on the exploitation, but we don't know whether it's a caste or a tribal, and I don't know whether it's a Dalit community also. So we are superimposing these academic discourses on the films, what I was trying to say is that the narrative itself doesn't talk about these things. Only somebody who is academically aware of these things can find them in the narrative. But within the narrative, it doesn't come through. Because there is no backstory. Yeah. Because there is no historicization or contextualization of many things. We are all talking about caste, but what comes through is the state atrocity. But the state is casteist, that's a different issue. But within the narrative, it comes only as state atrocity. Unless we extrapolate our external knowledge over the narrative, we will not get at it. Yeah, and the second point is the absence of the capitalism in these things. And the narrative ends in such a way that, yes, Gandhism is not a solution, conversion is not a solution, Marx is not a solution, and even Maoism is not a solution, and education is not a solution, whether going to JNU or something else. So the narrative through the characters talks about all these things, but the narrative conclusion also doesn't give any hope to us, because even if you go with Jayan K and Ambedkar, there is no result there. So in that sense, yes, it frustrates the audience that the long shot at the end, but again, it doesn't lead us nowhere. So I just wanted your quick comment on this. If they...
Thank you. Very, very, very important comment is that, actually,
Jayan, I'm sorry to interrupt. We have 2 minutes left. So because it's going to end abruptly, I would just like to thank you and Brinda a lot for this wonderful and really stimulating session. Jayan, please continue.
Thank you, Nikhila, Geeta, and Brinda, and everyone who comes and comments for it and discuss the film. I am very glad. And let me give a quick answer to Tarkeshwar. This film is not giving, not intended to give any message or any conclusion, any path to the silver bullet to solve any issue. My primary intention to trigger a discussion. The film is only a plan to trigger a discussion, and also it was located in a tribal land. I showed it. There is political reasons to shoot there. Otherwise, the movie never going to be made there. I shoot this film. I get the permission to shoot the film in the pretext of shooting a documentary on Papilio Buddha, the butterfly. And nobody knows that why I'm shooting this film in that land. It's not going to be a huge problem. And also, it is a Dalit story, and the Kalan Pakudan is the character Kalan Pakudan is a Dalit person, and also it's a Dalit struggle. But lately, the Mepadi struggle and the Changara struggle, you see the Dalit people and tribal people coming together. It is not I created, but it was happening in Kerala. That is a joint movement by the tribals, and people, Dalit people beyond the subcaste division coming together. Now it's a joint platform is coming. Gidanandan and Janu and Kalan Pakod and Gidanandan and Janu was coming from the tribal background. And the Dalit background, you can see the other people also coming in the, not in the film, they are